What is up? I am Miguel Antonio, and this is the Live and Create podcast. It's where I interview artists and entrepreneurs about what it means to live a great life and create great things. And this is the pre-COVID edition. It's a series of interviews I did back in 2019, and even though a whole lot of life has happened in between, I still wanted to get these stories out to you because I think you're going to find great value in it. On this episode, we have Barrett. Brian is one of the founders and owners of Pet Supplies Plus in the Houston area. He's also a drummer and a songwriter for the band Polaroid Summer. We are able to dive into songwriting and his process behind that, as well as entrepreneurship and what that has looked like to build a culture, not just a business. We also had a chance to discuss creativity and leadership. It was great to connect with him again. Hope you guys enjoyed.
The Live and Create podcast.
Writing and creating. It's like,
I guess
it's
that's
like
why
what
not
makes
everyone
these,
has a number one
what
hit,
makes
right?
these songs the number one hit? And it's like some people are so good at writing lyrics, and but that's like everything that we write. It's a collaboration, man. We write every single thing with our producer. He's become one of my best friends, and he lives in Virginia Beach, and he'll fly here, we'll fly there. But he's got like some software that we do. It's not like FaceTime, but we use that type of thing, and we're like synced through his session.
That's cool.
So our mics are hooked up, and like I can record and we can hear everything real time. So
Dude,
we write
awesome.
like that. But for me, it's like that's where and we'll sit and write lyrics, and I'm typically used to being like the type of writer that like, oh, let me listen to the track and like sit down and like brainstorm and think of lines, and then that's when it becomes like maybe that's a little too personal. Whereas like we're sitting there in the session like trying to finish the line, it's just like a pure collaboration, and that winds up a lot of times coming out a little more mass appeal like and stuff. So.
Yeah, and I have a friend who does a lot of writing and everything. That's what he's been pushing me to do is more co-write stuff. And whenever I've worked with him in the studio, it's not like official co-writing, but even just his suggestions seem to help it grow. And it's like so that is a world I want to start stepping into.
It's hard when everything's so personal to you. You know what I mean? Like even there's a lot of people that'll like produce, mix, write, everything's their own, and it's like it's hard because you're so tied to the project. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's good to have somebody else like have some input that's not like completely tied to it.
This is my baby.
Yeah, and it's like and then you rack your brain like you remember Omar. God, and he's Omar, our old lead singer for Lost Element.
I'm trying to remember.
Remember he was.
Oh yes, from the first APCA.
Yeah, from the first APCA. Omar's like, he's one of the most talented like artists that I've ever met. Like he's just really good musician, everything, and then he's like a painter too. And he's like, I'm just like, how do you do this, dude? This side of his brain is like is highlighting, and like, but lyrics, it's like he was just like that. Like it would be So we had this song called Echoes of the Night, and we love the song, but like he literally had a notepad filled with like lyrics for that song, but he just couldn't like. He was he was just so tied to it. And we're like, this isn't even healthy, man. Like, let's like,
it's like you need a break.
Either that, or let's like just let some of us like have a shot at it, or like let's just close this book and let's write another song. You know what I mean? But it can get like that for sure.
You get so in your head. I was writing one of the seasons of writing I did. I challenged myself to write 2 songs a day and it was like 3 months straight.
Ooh, I like that.
And it was a good lesson. I wouldn't suggest doing it always, but for me, it was just kind of a good lesson in letting go.
Yeah, you can always write another song.
Yeah, and because I wanted to perfect each thing, where there was no way in hell you could do that and kick out that many songs. So it was just like, okay, song, boom, next song, boom. And but then I got to the end of that season, I was like mad all the time towards the end of it, and nothing I wrote felt good. And that's when my buddy, his name's Josh, he's like, dude, I was calling him up and kind of bitching about it, and he's like, dude, you just need to take your kids, go to the park, like go live life a little bit, man. You need to get out of your studio. You need to
get out of the zone. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to like hang it up for a while. Then I went to another season, and then probably the last 6 months, I've just been jotting down ideas, and that's all I've let it be, for a while. It's like, I need something new to say.
Just jot down ideas, like what's going on. And I think too, like you said, you listen to like, what are these guys saying? What are they trying to say? Like people that you're into, music that you're into. And Man, we do that a lot, and like me especially. I don't know what Bryce does, the guy that I co-write with, but like I'll use something as a foundation. You know what I mean? Like I'm really into this stuff. Like what are these people trying to do? And that's what music is. Everything's been done.
Right.
It's just about finding your own way to to carry out that same message. And
well, that's why I don't like. I'm really nervous about all the lawsuits that are happening in the copyright issue because I'm just like. People, like
everything's
we've all been influenced by every other artist.
Well, that know? And I mean, there's just it's like
it's only 12 notes.
that's the whole thing. It's like what hasn't been done technically,
right?
So it's like the way I look at it is everything that's out there. There's a nod to like everything. You know what I mean? So it's. If you're straight ripping something, that's one thing.
Yeah,
but,
like Vanilla Ice when he took it under pressure.
Sure, fine.
Even though he swears ding, 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 ding is a little different, you know.
Yeah.
There is stealing, but...
Valid. Yeah, there's some valid stuff, but yeah, I mean...
That's like the Sam Smith, Tom Petty thing. I was a little like, really? Like, I really had to dig in to
I didn't notice
it.
that at all until it like came out, and then I started like listening to it, and I was like, I can see where that's coming from, but you know what? Like, I can almost assure you that Sam Smith never listened. He's heard that song for sure.
Right.
But he never listened to that song in reference to writing the song that he
thought,
wrote.
I'm going to rip this shit off.
Never. So, like, intent, obviously not there. And I hear stuff all the time that I'm like, man, I love this song. And it's like, I feel like I've kind of heard this somewhere. Like, that is going to happen to people.
Yeah.
Like, I mean...
Well, it seems like a lot of the songs that I've done in the past, like former bands, where a lot of people be like, it kind of reminds me of this, but that's what drew them in a fresh way, because it's like, that was an influence.
Exactly, and why is that a bad thing? That's the, so...
Last time I was in the studio, is last November, I was recording the 4 singles I have coming out, and there's this one song, I had a bunch of songs, and we're just going through, picking which ones we're going to do. And there was one, I was like, I love this one. And I'm just singing it. And then Josh, the producer, he goes in on the mic and he starts singing a Taylor Swift song. That's literally, I can't remember the name, which Taylor Swift song it was, but I basically rewrote her entire song with new lyrics and didn't even realize it. Yeah. And I don't even really, I listened to some Taylor Swift.
Was the melody the top line was the
melody,
same?
Almost exactly the same.
That's hilarious.
And I guess somewhere along the lines, like I like T Swift just like every other red-blooded American, but it's not like I'm bumping her jams all the time and I'm like, I need to steal this.
Yeah, you weren't thinking,
But we decided not to do it because
it was too much.
Yeah, I can't do that. So.
Yeah, you're like, this just seems a little too close.
So let's keep diving in. I think some of that part I might just keep in.
Whatever
just
you want, man.
And,
totally.
But thanks for making the time. And I'll start out with the most important question.
Yep.
All right, the deepest one. If Pancake got in a fight with French Toast, who would win? It's been very enlightening as I've asked this question.
Let me think about this for a second. If French Toast and Pancake got in a fight, who would win? I would have to say that Pancake would win because the French Toast is so tasty that the Pancake would eat the French Toast. I don't know. It's kind of like props to French Toast, but because of that, it's going to lose. Yeah, it's going to lose because it's like if you're that tasty, you're bound to get eaten, man. So
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, the creative answers in this, and that's the first time I've heard someone give props to French Toast.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
I like it.
Saw that it was going to be the loser. But I might be thinking about that on my drive later. So
yeah, people are like, French Toast is thicker. It's gonna. No, I was thinking it's gonna get eaten, man.
So awesome, man, dude. You and I met a few years ago.
Yeah.
And you've been rocking, doing your band. Just got a publishing deal and working on that. Working on a lot of writing. So tell me what you've been up to with Polaroid Summer and just when it comes to music in general.
Yeah. So like you said, we recently signed a publishing deal with another Victory inside Victory Records, and it was really kind of came like out of the blue for us. So we weren't really planning on, hey, we're going to sign some sort of deal and pump out all these songs. We were obviously always writing and being creative, but we weren't like really diving into saying, hey, we need to really start putting songs out there. So we've kind of taken a break from playing live so much, and really just diving into being creative, getting songs in the hands of the publishing company to try and get them out there. So we're also going to be releasing those songs as singles probably. If we feel like we have a cohesive group of songs that we feel really good about, we'll think about releasing like an EP. Bundle them up. But for now, we're really just going to focus on releasing singles and just putting out quality music. I don't think we're going to try not to do too much writing with a specific state of mind. Like we talked about earlier, I'm going to write a song that I know is going to be placed, on
a happy song
on
for a high school football team on
so
the WB.
Yeah, I think we're just going to continue to do what we do. I think that, kind of what caught their ear in the first place was the licensability of the tracks that we have.
Which you already were doing.
Yeah, what we were already doing, and we were never doing it for that purpose anyway. So I think we're just going to try and write songs that mean something to us that other people can relate to. And if they happen to be songs that are good to be placed somewhere and get out there, that's kind of the goal. So that kind of sums up what Polaroid Summer's doing right now. So
to me, there's a cool lesson in there, actually, just hearing you say that, where it's like they signed you because of what you already were doing.
Right.
Yet it seems like artists, we tend to get in our heads now where we're like, oh, well, I need to change this and this. It's like, wait a minute. They're like, no, I saw that gem right there, so let's just make this shinier. Let's keep working on that. And that's cool.
It's funny how your mind will do that, because we initially were like, oh man, we could write songs about this, but it's like we weren't really asked to, hey, can you write a song for this? I think we were asked to just keep doing what we're doing. So
and then maybe the day will come where it's just the right fit, and then you
and that could be cool too, for sure. So
man, it'll be cool to be watching a Netflix show and be like, oh my God, there they are, Polaroid Summer on there. So you play drums, right?
Yep, play drums.
And when you're writing, or what else do you play? Like,
I play a little bit of guitar. By no means a guitar player, but I play enough to write. So that's kind of how I started writing on my own, was just playing basic chord progressions and writing melodies and stuff. And I've been doing that I've been playing drums since I was 15, and been playing the guitar probably since I was like 16 or 17. And ever since then I just started writing. Like, it's almost like I picked up the guitar not because I wanted to be able to play the guitar, but because when I saw the creative aspect of things when I was in a band as a 15, 16-year-old, I was like, oh, I want to be a part of that. I want to be able to write. And I thought, I wasn't brave enough to like sit in on the writing sessions without knowing, so I started just playing the guitar and trying to write stuff on my own and everything like that.
Did they look at you at first like, dude, you're the drummer?
Yeah, it's like, you're the drummer, man. No, I think that everybody's been, that I've worked with, has been really open to writing, and that's awesome. It's been good because writing's, I think, just as much a skill set as anything else.
Absolutely.
So it's like, it's a muscle. You gotta work at it to be good at it and stuff like that. So it's definitely been good for me to like get out of my shell and try and work on that more.
You do keys as well?
No, just MIDI stuff, like chords. But if you stuck me down at a grand piano, I would fail miserably. No, I'm not on that wavelength for sure.
So it's more guitar with you. You're sitting with the guitar, sitting maybe building beats. That kind of stuff. It's for me. A lot of it is melody. So it might be that I start with like a beat idea in my head, and then from there I can, get some sort of like a top line. I get a lot of times just top lines in my head. So some sort of melody in my head, and then I can put, like, obviously when I have the notes, I can put a chord progression to that, and then I can just write lyrics on top of that. But like I said, we, most of the time I'm writing, it's collaboration with our producer and our singer. The other guys in the band are part of that process, or is more you and the producer?
Makaya, our singer, and our producer Bryce and I do all the writing.
So full collaboration.
Yeah, full collaboration, and sometimes it might just be Bryce and I, but most of the time it's all three of us. And
awesome.
So yeah.
Very cool, man. So you said about 15, you were in your first band.
Yeah.
What inspired that? What inspired you to get started?
It's funny. I wish I had like a better real inspiration type story of how I got into it. But I always liked listening to music, even when I was like early middle school age and stuff, when kids start getting into music, 12, 13, 14. And I had a buddy that played the guitar, and I was really into Bush at the time, when I was in middle school, and it was like, that was what was hot, and I still love that album today, the 16 Stone album, and
Glycerine.
Glycerine and Come Down and all this stuff. Well, he was like, we'd go hang out, and he's playing these songs on the guitar, and I'm like, man, those are so sweet, and I knew that
I'm laughing because I remember those.
You can reminisce,
Awesome.
So. And I knew that my dad played the drums.
Okay.
He had talked about it, but he never broke it out and broke his kit out and played for us or anything. He just talked about playing the drums. So I was like really pretty much inspired by the fact that my buddy was playing these songs that I really liked. And I was like, this is really cool to see somebody actually play those. So I went home and I was like, hey, do you have your drum kit? And he was like, yeah, it's in the attic. I haven't broken that thing out in years. And I just tore it down and just started beating away. And then it was from there, it was kind of like, I never took drum lessons. I never worked on like my chops or like my rudiments or being like trying to be some sort of like a technical drummer. For me, it was always about being in a band and playing songs. Like I just wanted to play those songs, and then that turned into us writing our own songs. And so for me, it was always
same friend who was playing Bush.
Ended
part
up
of
being
your
in
first band.
He was, and that just kind of spiraled from there. So that's really the inspiration just came from that. I mean, it was really nothing more than the fact that I was like, man, this is really cool. I want to play.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome, man. So when you're not drumming and writing songs, doing that, you're taking care of pets. Well, helping other people take care of pets, right?
Yeah.
I think this is pretty interesting. So talk to me about your business.
Yeah. So inspiring so just to kind of pull it all full circle is, that's kind of how I was inspired to be a musician. And then, starting my own business, being an entrepreneur, kind of spun out of being a musician. We're on the road a lot. You're putting everything into that. It's like, I graduated from college, got my finance degree, and I had 9-to-5 jobs trying to be a serious musician and play in a band.
Right.
And
with
it was
a finance degree. That's intense.
And then I always had to quit my jobs because we'd go on the road, and it's like, I can't say, hey, I'm going to be back in 37 days. Don't worry about it.
It's cool, right? See you then.
Yeah. So it was like a lot of like, working a year at, 9-to-5 jobs. And it was really hard for me to ever build a career doing that. And, as it is for any musician, it's very difficult to, build some stability for yourself while you're working on trying to be a successful musician. It's tough, and so that's kind of where the inspiration and like starting my own business came from. And then I started my own first business as a lighting and sound production company.
Okay.
We did like rentals, and we ended up.
You probably knew a few things about that.
We with a couple other musician friends, we started that, and we dove into doing weddings and stuff like that. So to come full circle with the pet stuff, after doing that, my brother and I talked about getting into business together, and we looked into different franchises, and we spent a couple years really doing our due diligence on what we were passionate about, what we really wanted to get into, and what was a good business model. And we found Pet Supplies Plus. Nice. And we have since then, it's been a few years, and we've opened a couple stores, and things have been good, and we're really enjoying it. We're both pet lovers, and it's a great atmosphere, to work in, and it's obviously been challenging, just like everything else, but it's been wonderful. So that's kind of how I got into that, and how everything came together. So,
and it's cool to see how because it is an entrepreneurial endeavor. I think a lot of artists don't always see that or think of it that way, but the fact of creating a band and marketing this product, if you want to think of it that way, and pushing it out there,
it is.
And so to see that roll into you building yet another business around that, it's really cool.
Yeah, I think that's what it's about, is just being a musician. You've got to have a lot of, fight in you, and it's kind of the same thing when you're running your own business. So it's like, you gotta be the type of person that really wants to do something. Nobody's gonna do it for you. So you gotta wanna get after there, take a risk. Being in the music industry is all about taking risk. You know what I mean? Every day, because time's valuable. And if you're putting all your time into that, you obviously very passionate about it. You've got a lot of fight for that. Mm-hmm. And I think that translates into running your own business too. You know, it's got to be, you're taking a risk. You got to be passionate about it. Got to have the fight. So I think to give the music industry and to give music credit, I think a lot of that came from being a musician for so long.
That's cool. So instead of degrees in business, we can just have people start bands for a good 4 to 5 years, and then you're ready to be a you could start a whole new school.
You could have trade school, then people could go to college, and then be a musician.
Start a band, sell merch.
Start a band, and you're bound to be successful, I promise.
At something. Right?
Yeah, at something, 100%.
That's awesome. So you live the entrepreneurial life in both worlds, like your pet business, pet supplies plus, plus your band. And we were talking earlier before kind of cameras started rolling about just this roller coaster of the musician life, the entrepreneurial life. What does it look like for you to manage that for you personally? Like to keep a clear head and
so it's
not lose your mind in the middle of it.
I think that first off, I think I'm really lucky to have my brother as a business partner, because we both have a lot going on, and I think it's nice to be able to lean on each other when we need help with certain things, or I need time to focus on this, and
that's cool.
And yada yada. So I think to preface that, like that on the front line, that it's nice to have that for sure. If I was on my own, I think it would be a lot more difficult. And then again, it's I think it was a lot easier before I had a child as well, because now
that compounds it.
It compounds it. I've got a 1.5-year-old, and she trumps everything. You know what I mean? Yeah. So as you know, so it's definitely difficult, but I just think of all of it kind of just as a blessing, and that I'm lucky that I'm getting to do all of this, and that I find things that I'm really passionate about, that I love, and that that I had the leap of faith to actually stick with these things and to pursue them. And so I definitely think it's hard to manage, and I'm stressed a lot. But my wife talks about all this. She's like, you need to slow down and blah blah blah. And I'm like, but I think that sometimes I'm just overwhelmed. But I also think that's part of what makes me me. You know what I mean? Like if I was living the life where it's like I just lived for the weekends and I'm just gonna do my work. I'm gonna put it to rest when I come home.
Right.
I'm not taking work home with me, and I'm not thinking about that stuff. I really don't think that I'd be me if that's what I was doing. It's just not my personality. I'm I like to carry stuff with me. It might not always be the healthiest thing, but I can't really help it. I think it's just that balance. Like I'm stressed at work, and then I'll come up to the music studio and I'll work on some music, and that's a release, and there's always something that's a release.
Becomes a release for you in that sense.
Yeah, I think it's all kind of, I enjoy the hustle aspect of it, and I think eventually I'd like to, relax and, live a more calm life. But
for that one weekend,
Yeah,
right?
But so far I'm not very good at laying low so far, so we'll see.
I wish I could remember the name of it, but I heard about this particular fish that's kind of a deep water, deep ocean fish that if it comes up from the pressure, it actually explodes. Yeah. And so to thrive, it actually needs a certain amount of pressure. And I feel like I'm similar to you that way. Where I always feel pressure from around me to relax or to not do as much. But it seems like when I am focused on particular endeavors with particular goals, I'm actually way happier. And maybe I have less time, but when I have that free time, I'm a lot happier human being in the middle of that. I don't know if I related to that fish, and now I feel like I related to
that relates a lot to me for sure. And you use the word I'm a happier person, and that speaks to me because I think that's really what it's about for me is we're here, we're living life. What's the purpose of my business? What's the purpose of music? What's the purpose of the grind if I'm not happy? You know what I mean? Right. So I think that, when I was saying that's what makes me me, if I wasn't doing that, I wouldn't be me.
Right.
But that's what makes me happy, at least at this point in my life. So I think that's more of what it's about. You know what I mean? Is that's what makes me whole. That's what makes me happy. And that's what makes me keep going and you know, and if I'm happier, I'm going to be a better dad to my daughter and a better husband to my wife. And so I think that's how it kind of comes full circle for me. So,
and I know some people where they felt pressure to do a business and do that entrepreneurial life, and they weren't happy doing the kind of insanity it sounds like you and I both enjoy. And they realize, they're like, no, I'd rather just work for somebody else.
And leave it at home.
They sold their business. This particular friend I'm thinking of, he sold his business to another person who was a friend of his, and they ended up hiring him on. And he's like so much more happy working for them
and
than when I was doing
and I think that's, you know, and there's a huge group of people that's really good for, and that's what makes them happy, and that's what life's all about. Yes. You got to find what works for you, and that's, you know, and that's perfectly, you know, reasonable. So
my wife, she's looked at me sometimes, she's like, I really wish you'd be happy with a 9 to 5, like normal thing. And there's been seasons where I've either had to do it or tried to do it, you know, throughout our marriage, and she's like, but I can tell you're not. So let's just figure out.
I've had similar conversations with my wife. They probably love to talk to each other and say, but
they're like, let's have a conversation. You're really going to do another thing? But no, luckily it sounds like your wife's incredibly supportive as well. But there was a season where I kind of thought everything was done for me and like my own kind of endeavors. And I tried to do the regular job thing, and she was like, you need to figure out how to do. You need to figure out how to do what you love. And let's figure it out. You know, and I think that's huge. And it's interesting because this is about 5th or 6th interview I've done now, getting ready to start this series, and the theme of happiness just keeps weaving in and out, and it's all linked to understanding yourself
and what drives you, what motivates you, and and that's I think that's a huge key is being happy, because you're a better person. You're who you are when you're happy, and then I mean that's what life's all about, right?
Absolutely.
There's no point in doing any of the stuff we do if you're miserable.
You
need to change, you know, and I think that's what it's all about. So
that's who's the Oprah guy, Dr. Phil.
Oh, Dr. Phil.
As cheesy as it is, like, how's it working for you?
Yeah.
Or whatever his little quote is, where it's like, oh god, this cheesy guy.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if it's not working.
Yeah, it's kind of like sometimes you got to stop and ask yourself that question: Is this working for me? What am I happy? You know, and I think it's important for sure.
Now, and it leads into, we kind of hit a little bit on it, but I love the philosophical side of things. I love action and execution. You know, we're talking about the goals and all that. Yeah. But I love to figure out what makes myself tick. That's what I'm constantly thinking about, but also what makes other people tick. And when you think of ultimately living a great life, like, or maybe it'd be better if I asked, how do you define living a great life?
So I'm kind of like a ranter. So probably that's why I always say to come full circle, because I'll just go on a tangent. I'll be like, I'm trying to tie this together. But you know, I think how to live a great life for me really ties into what we were just talking about, being happy, right? So if we were to have had this interview, you know, 6 or 7 years ago, for me, you know, that answer would have been completely revolved around music and trying to make it in the music industry. And that dream and that, you know, to continue that drive. And looking back now, sometimes I ask myself, like, I'm not even 100% sure what making it even means to me, or what it really meant to me. I don't know that I actually knew, you know, and it was so much emotional energy spent on that one thought that didn't even at the time maybe even have any substance, right? So I think fast forward years to now, where I'm a father, I'm a husband, I have my own business, and you know, I was finally able to have enough space to set up my own studio. And I said, you know, I really want to put together all the memories of my music career and all that stuff. And like when I took the time to do that, and I broke all this stuff out and I got stuff printed out, I was looking through like awards, magazines, and pictures and stuff, and I was like, you know, I might have thought at the time like I never made it, I didn't do anything, but it's like I'm looking at all the memories and the stuff, and it's like, man, I did a lot. If I think about it, maybe I'm not a number one record selling artist for Universal Records, but that's a 0.1% of the population. It's
right.
like, was this enough for me? Can I call this success, accomplishments? And, was I happy doing it? And I think looking back at that, it's made me realize that, a couple things. One, that, music at that point, I thought that was the only thing that was going to make me happy. Mm-hmm. And I realized all these other things came into my life, and I'm like, man, I enjoy so many other things in life. There's so many other aspects in life that bring joy to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's made me appreciate what I did in music way more than I ever did when that's all that I thought about,
right. That's
if that makes any sense.
It does. Yeah.
So I think that's that, and to live like a great life, like I said, to come full circle with that is
we'll title this one. Come full circle.
To come full circle is really that. Is to find, for me, it's to find other things that made me happy other than just thinking that the music was the only thing I could do.
Yeah.
And just to appreciate how much life has to offer, and
enjoying all that's around.
Yeah, enjoying all that's around you, and really realize you get so hyped up in, one thing, and then you don't realize, I think a lot of times you take for granted, like the support systems that you have around you, and people like my wife, who I'm like, how did you even deal with some of this stuff? You know what I mean? Looking back on it, I'm like, oh my gosh.
You supported me through that?
Yeah, through that. And it's like, what? Like, your eyes kind of open to that stuff. And you look back and you say, yeah, because it was important to me. And it made me who I was and all those kind of things. But it made me really appreciate people and other things in life. And I think, like you said, really appreciating everything that's around me and not just what really consumed me for so long.
Would you say it's like a balance thing for you, or just appreciating?
Maybe a little bit of both. I think appreciating for sure is a big part of it, but I think if you were to take music away from me, I think that for sure I'd have something missing in me for sure. I think that's part of the happiness piece, 100%. So, and that's why I'm continuing to find ways to be involved and to still have that, fight and that passion in me. But at the same rate, to be able to appreciate all the other things that are going on around me, and to understand, what value comes in all those things as well. Yeah. So, and I think there's a balance there for sure.
There's a quote that sticks out to me from a movie. I quote movies. I don't know if that's cool or not.
That's good. I love movie quotes. So.
We Were Soldiers, the Mel Gibson.
Yeah, I remember that movie.
And there's a scene where his lieutenant, his wife just had a baby. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you remember, he's in the chapel and he's like praying.
Okay.
And Mel Gibson, his character, walks in, and he's a young dad, and he's asking me, he's like, how do you do it? How do you be a good father and a good soldier? And he says to him, I feel like being good at one makes me great at the other. And that line right there just has stuck with me. Yeah. And even as I hear you talking about that, where it's like you need that music piece, but it brings you joy, then you can bring to your family. But you found out that the music was empty in a way. If I hear you say, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you're saying like just chasing the music dream was empty without all the beautiful relationships around you. And it's that's kind of a thing that just drives me too in thinking of like, how do I be good at one to make me great at the other?
That's exactly
So do you feel like that kind of those ahas have influenced your writing along the way too?
For sure. I think that over the past 4 years since I've had my business endeavors and stuff, 100%. Like my whole outlook has been very different. So I think my writing has been very different as well. I think that I have a lot more to say, if that makes any sense. To talk about it specifically would be kind of difficult, but I just feel like, obviously being a father too, you look at things totally different as well. And I never could relate to that before. And I just think it's kind of like everybody says, you don't know until you have a kid. And
I know. I was always like,
you hate when people say that.
But then
you hate when people say that until you do, and then you're like, I get it, I know. So I know I'm kind of being that guy right now, but I think, being a father and then, having some separation from that music over the past 4 years, or I shouldn't say separation because I'm not, it's the balance, like you said.
Yeah.
Having more balance has given me, a lot more to write about. And in that time as well, I also lost my mother, who I was really close to. So I think that,
Sorry to hear that.
That also, it made me think differently and made me think about things differently. And, I think a combo of all of that has really, really given me light to write about different stuff for sure than what I would have before. So,
do you listen to Mike Posner at all?
Yeah, I do.
His song Ibiza.
I
took a pill in Ibiza.
Oh yeah.
It's like they remix it as this crazy dance song.
Yeah.
But if you ever get a chance to listen to him do it acoustic, and the lyrics of it just rip your heart out.
Yeah.
And what he's talking about, but basically, it seems like he's lamenting spending an entire decade just chasing this music dream, and he just got off the roller coaster, as he said, and he was just by himself. He's like, this just wasn't worth it anymore. And now you see this journey since he released that song, where it seems like he's trying in his own actual life, what does life look like, to make amends to people, to have real relationships, to not be that guy. And there's a podcast, And the Writer Is. Do you know that one?
I don't know that one.
You, as a writer, you would
really love it.
Every week, it's a new songwriter, and that's where I heard him Mike Posner told his own story.
His own story. What did you say it was called again?
It's And the Writer Is.
And the Writer Is.
With,
okay, cool.
Ross Goling or something, but they bring in some of the top writers in every
and they
genre.
just discuss what's going on in their lives, what behind,
what's inspiring you, what are you thinking about, and but just kind of open that up too, where it's man, we can keep chasing this thing, or we can enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the journey a little bit. Yeah, sometimes you got to stop and actually, you can get caught up for sure. So
in that, now going into creating great things. For you, how do you define, or how do you feel like you create great things? What does that look like to you?
I would say, if I could sum it up in a few words, it would be collaboration is a word that sticks out for me. Camaraderie, and so all those two words are talking about working with other people, working as a team, right? So in that, with the people that you're working with, empowering them as well. So I'm kind of taking my business side of things, just trying to create great things there, as well as when writing music and the artistic side of things. I always feel like when we're writing the best songs, we're collaborating, we're bouncing things off of each other. I find it, very difficult to think that I'm going to come up with the best possible product myself.
Right.
When I know that I'm surrounded by a bunch of talented people, that if we share the collaboration of trying to come up with the ultimate message, we're going to get a better product if we do it together.
That's cool.
And then, when it transfers into the workplace, it's, kind of the culture and the motto that we try and bring to our stores are, empowering our employees, not saying, hey, I need you to fix that, I need you to do that. It doesn't look good, but it's asking them, what would you do? How would you do this?
So
giving them input, because when you give somebody input, you hired that person because you thought they were good, right? And
let them actually do the
let
job.
them do some stuff. And when somebody feels like they have input and they're putting thought and emotion into something, they're going to hold themselves accountable. Mm-hmm. They're going to think there's value to that, instead of I don't know, I was just told to do that, so it's not my it's not my that's on Brian, you know what I mean? If it's bad, it's on him. He told me to do it. So
right.
Yeah, so I think that's really, when I think about creating great things, I think it's rare that somebody's I'm a great human being, I created great things, and I did it all I did it all on my own, you know? So for me, it would be all about collaboration, camaraderie, empowering people.
That's awesome. Now, is that something that's just been a natural thing for you, or did that get taught to you as well?
Yeah, I think that, so from a business standpoint, that's something that we've read a lot of leadership books. My brother worked for a company for a long time that had that team valued foundation, and they had him read a lot of leadership books and stuff like that. So, over the past few years, really diving into that stuff kind of opened my eyes to that. But with that being said, I've always felt like I was part of a team because I was always in a band.
Right.
I always collaborated with people when I was writing. I've always, when I was in high school, I played sports, so I was always, growing up, I felt like I was always part of a team. I don't know. I've always felt. I've never felt like I had to do something on my own.
Yeah.
I never, or if I did, I never felt like I enjoyed it, or I never felt like I've never felt like
yeah, that was fun.
I never felt like I was very good at just like doing something on my own. I never, I don't know. The only thing I can relate to doing on my own is I like to play golf, and it's like, okay, that
you just want to go in a cart by yourself?
Yeah. Well, no, not go in a cart, but I'm saying like,
okay.
if I'm
imagining you out.
If I'm good at golf, that's going to be because
that's just you.
That's going to be because I'm good at golf.
See.
If I suck at golf, that's going to be because I suck at golf. But,
or the mimosas that
mimosas that came, or the Bloody Marys that come around. But yeah, I think overall, almost everything that I do, I'm doing with other people that are helping me.
Yeah.
With that accomplishment or helping me be successful. So I think, I don't know if that's a weird answer or not, but that's kind of like the way I see it, is that I'm not, it's not all on me and stuff like that. So,
it sounds like maybe your brother had a role of
he did
instilling that too.
100%. Yeah. He's my older brother, so that's his job.
Hell yeah, man. That's awesome. How many brothers?
One brother, older brother, younger sister, so I'm the middle.
Nice, man.
Yeah, the middle problem child,
Yeah.
Middle child syndrome. I'm the outcast of the family. So
see, ours is the baby. It's our 6-year-old. He's just.
Oh, really?
We have 15, 10, and 7 and 6, and our 6-year-old is it's all boys.
Oh yeah.
So it's like he's the most intense one out of all of them.
So, yeah.
But the moment they all leave, and it's just him, he becomes like this cuddly little kid where it's like it's all competition for him.
Oh,
He's
it's
like, they're
just
around, so what's up? Like he'll
savage,
charge
ready
our
to go.
15-year-old. He is charged our oldest, and
he's
I'm like, bro,
you guys better start paying attention to me.
Basically.
Yeah. I know what that's like as a kid too, so that's pretty funny.
Now, before we land the plane of it, since you've been in the industry and kind of the hard knocks of it, you've pub deal, all these things. If someone right now is watching and it's a guy or a girl or something, they're getting ready to start their first band or getting ready to start going out on the road, what's something you would want to instill in them? Or what's a piece of advice that you wish someone would have gave you at that time?
I think one thing I would say from the get-go is, and usually you do when you're just starting out, is do it for the right reasons, I know that sounds cheesy and people say that a lot, but the music, looking back and after being in it for over a decade, well over a decade, it really rings true, man. It's like, it's not worth doing it if you're not enjoying it and you're not doing it for the right reasons. Play in a band, and we talked about it. Am I writing songs for myself and writing for people? And I think, especially at the beginning, like you'll develop as a musician, as a songwriter and stuff like that. But I think at the beginning, it's kind of important to do it for yourself. If you want to be in a punk rock band, be in a punk rock band. Don't be in a pop band because you think that's what's popular right now. Right. Like that's advice I would give.
We'd all be in country bands if that's how we approached it.
Yeah.
Country's so hot right now.
Yeah, it's like, you'd be, hey, if I'd be in a Texas country band right now for sure. Living in Houston, I'd be all over. I'd have gigs everywhere. But I think...
but find the love in it.
Find the love in it. Like if that's why you're doing it, do it for that reason. If you're not doing it for that reason, do it as a hobby and enjoy it and find something else to do. But if you're doing it because you love it, then I think that's the advice that I'd give, and really find what it is, what genre that you're passionate about, and go for that, because everything comes back around anyway. It's like, oh, this music isn't popular right now, but we could all be like, oh, we're writing pop songs right now. And guess what? The music industry is all about being just too late on things, right? So I'd say that's one thing. And the other thing is not trying to find a shortcut to things because, and, you know, I say that and I'm still trying to do it today, but we all say, this is where we want to be. And the ultimate truth behind everything is no matter what opportunities you're given, it's just to get those doors open, things have to be organic. Like, it's just the way that it is. You can't try and find a way to open the last door and get your foot in. Like, you just have to, you know, playing crappy shows, it's part of the deal. You know what I mean? Writing crappy songs is part of the deal. Like, it's just one of those things that, like, I would say, you know, expect that, you know, have that expectation going into it because that's, you know, and it's part of the whole ride. Like, nobody wants to look back and be like, oh, it just happened for me, you know?
We were amazing from our first show.
And we got signed because somebody just saw us, and now we're selling 1 million records. And, like, you know, maybe that's happened, and maybe that happened in the 90s, or I don't really know if that's ever happened, but
I feel like that's what they try to sell.
I think that's what they try and sell, but even then, it's not, you know?
Well, even see, like, Lizzo, like, you see this phenomenal artist blow up, like, seemingly, at least to me, out of nowhere, and to a lot of people. But she's been hustling for years. She released that album 2 years ago. And it's like, all we see is the VMA performance, you know, and don't see all that struggle.
The stuff behind the scene. Yeah, and I promise you that's happened. So I think, you know, for me, like I said before, there was so much emotional energy that went into trying to make it and pushing for all this stuff.
Right.
When I detached from the emotional side of things so much, I felt like that's when my opportunities started kind of getting better, you know? Cool. And I don't have the answer as to why, but I just would say, don't worry about that so much and focus on what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Don't focus on that last door. Just focus on what you're doing. Try and make it great. Try and have a good time doing it. And if things will work themselves out, if you know, if it was meant to be. So.
No, that's cool. Because, sometimes I feel like there's times where I've pushed so hard or just overextended myself. Either mentally, physically,
wear
or financially.
Yourself out.
You know, and it's like, and even that, I think, is part of the process, to be honest. But it'd be better to not overextend myself as much. Like, if I could go back in my career. But
100%.
When I'm fascinated by the comedy world and just learning about how comedians come up. And that's something about when I hear comedians talk about their process, it's been different because, like, music, we practice and practice. You can practice and really get your songs down. So the first time you go out, you maybe not like perfect or anything, but there's a way to go out there and you're ready.
Yeah, you're rehearsed. Yeah, you're ready to go.
These guys and girls, their stories, like, to do, and I never thought about, but I guess to do comedy well, they have to go try it out in front of people.
Getting food,
you have no idea what's funny in your room by yourself. And
no
I'm
idea.
Like, so I've been trying to do, like, find a way to take those kind of risks as a musician, just to be like, let's just try it and see. Where, like, one night I made fun of someone at a private gig and it didn't go over so well. I thought that'd be funny. And so I learned, don't do that. But, like, but it made me better the next show.
Being a comedian's not in your future?
No, not being a comedian. It's definitely not in my future. But it was just, it actually, I learned from that moment, the next show I did, I was able to do better talking points, like, in the show. Yeah. And because I learned some hard lessons.
Yeah, you learned. Yeah. And then you felt the pain of the comedians, like, hey, this is raw what they're going out there, and it's like, you're very exposed when that's the case, for sure.
Yeah, and so I think,
and sometimes that's good for you. You know what I mean?
I think so, and I think maybe as musicians, in a sense, that's what it made me think of hearing you talk about that. Is like be take each step of that process.
Yes, take and appreciate each step, and you'll know, like, it's, you know, and I had talked to my wife about it, and it's like, I'm going to stop doing this when it's not fun anymore. Yeah. And when I started having that attitude, I knew that I was doing it for the right reasons, you know, because I really thought about it, and I was like, if I'm not enjoying this, there's really no point in me, because, like you said, you're overextending, and there's emotion, and there's fight, and that's draining to somebody. So, you know, why do that to yourself if you're not enjoying it? So that was kind of when was able to take that from here and spit it out of my mouth, I knew like, hey, now I'm in a good place with music. Like, I'm going to do this until it's not fun anymore. So you might get up to here and say, this isn't fun anymore. And maybe that's the end of the journey for you, and you can still do music as a passion and a hobby, and that's great. So I think that would be a big piece of advice for me. So.
That's awesome. Well, thanks a lot. I'll probably have to clip that out and make its own little
thing
for other artists too. And
totally.
So thanks for making the time. I
Heck
appreciate
yeah,
it.
man.
It's cool
I appreciate it.
To hear some of the things, some of your journey, and no doubt other people will be.
Yeah, and it's exciting to see all the things that you're doing, and I think that's amazing, man. I part of me envies the fact that you're doing that right now, and I'm like, oh, I want to get back out on the road.
So, and it's all the seasons. I was almost 2 years off off of the road. So it was like, okay, now it's time to get back.
It's time to get back. So and hey, hopefully someday I will. So
yeah, it'll be awesome. Well, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
That was cool, man.
Thank you for listening to the Live and Create podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure you subscribe and leave a comment or a review.
The Live and Create podcast.